The reluctant partnership Lyra stood near the metal gate, tapping her fingers on her bow. Her skin was pale blue, her eyes bright like two cold stars. She was the best archer in her squad, and everyone respected her. But today, she felt annoyed. The commander had just announced that each alien would get a human partner in the coming battle. Lyra didn't trust humans much. She thought they were soft, weak, and slow to learn. The planet Zafra was at war, and the battlefield was always dangerous. Enemies came from the dark forests, their armor shining with green lights. Lyra and her squad had trained for months to protect the last safe outpost. But now she was supposed to fight with a human. She could not believe it. The commander stood tall, his voice echoing across the camp. "You will work together. Trust your partner. Humans have skills we don't have. Our only chance is unity." Lyra didn't agree, but she stayed silent. Then she saw him, her new partner. Ethan walked over, looking calm and a little shy. He was tall, with short dark hair and a steady gaze. He carried a simple bow made from old wood, not the shining alien metal Lyra was used to. Lyra crossed her arms and gave Ethan a look. "So, you're the one I have to save today?" she said with a small laugh. Ethan smiled politely. "Maybe we'll save each other," Lyra scoffed. She turned away and checked her arrows. She whispered to her friend Yari, "Can you believe this? They're pairing me with a human. Why me?" Yari grinned. "Maybe he'll surprise you." Lyra rolled her eyes. "I doubt it." The warning alarm sounded suddenly, loud and sharp. Red lights flashed. The commander shouted, "Positions! Enemies in Sector 6. Lyra's heart beat faster. She and Ethan ran to their assigned post at the front of the outpost wall. Mist drifted over the ground, hiding shadows. Lyra took a deep breath and prepared her plasma bow. Her squad crouched behind barriers. Ethan stood beside her, quietly checking his old wooden bow. Lyra noticed the scars on his hands. He looked tougher than she first thought. The ground began to shake. From the trees, dark armored shapes moved forward. The enemy's eyes glowed with green light. Lyra fired the first arrow, fast and bright, but it hit a shield and bounced away. The enemies kept coming. Ethan still did not shoot. He watched the approaching enemies, his face calm. Lyra grew frustrated. "What are you waiting for?" she whispered sharply. "Shoot," Ethan shook his head. "Not yet. Wait for the right moment." Lyra's hands trembled. The enemies were almost at the wall now. Two huge enemy soldiers, both over 7 feet tall and covered in thick armor, charged straight at their position. One held an energy spear, the other a heavy shield. The rest of the squad panicked and fired wildly. Lyra aimed and shot again, but her arrow missed in the chaos. She looked at Ethan. He stood perfectly still, his eyes locked on the two charging enemies. At the last second, Ethan raised his bow, drew back a single arrow, and released it. The arrow whistled through the air, so fast Lyra barely saw it. For a moment, everything slowed down. The arrow split in mid, one point became two. Both enemy soldiers fell to their knees at the same time, the arrowheads deep in their chests. Silence fell over the squad. The other enemies paused, confused and afraid. Lyra's mouth fell open. She had never seen anything like that. She stared at Ethan in shock. How did you do that?" she asked quietly. Ethan shrugged. "Just something I learned a long time ago." The rest of the squad slowly gathered around, their fear turning to curiosity. Even the commander looked impressed. Lyra felt a strange new feeling, maybe respect, maybe something more. She realized she had judged Ethan too quickly. Maybe humans were not so weak after all. Maybe there was something about them that the aliens didn't understand yet, but there was no time for questions. The enemies regrouped, and the battle was far from over. Lyra and Ethan stood side by side, now truly a team. The partnership had started with laughter and doubt, but it was about to be tested in ways neither of them could imagine. The night air was thick with tension. Lyra knew one thing for sure: this human was not what he seemed. And whatever secrets he held, they would soon be revealed on the battlefield. Secrets in the shadows after the attack. The outpost was strangely quiet. Soldiers fixed broken barriers, dragging away the fallen enemy bodies. The squad talked in low voices, many glancing at Ethan. Lyra couldn't stop thinking about what she had seen. How could one arrow split in midair and take down two armored enemies? Was it human technology or some kind of magic? Lyra found Ethan near the supply tent, cleaning his bow with a careful hand. She walked over, unsure how to begin. "You surprised everyone out there," she said finally. Ethan looked up, his eyes calm. "Thanks, I just do my best." She waited for him to say more, but he stayed silent. The air between them felt heavy. Lyra wanted to ask how he did it, but she was too proud. Instead, she changed the subject. "We have patrol duty tonight, double shift, because of the attack." Ethan nodded. "I'll be ready." Later, as the moons rose high above the jungle, Lyra and Ethan started their patrol. The forest was dense, filled with strange noises, rustling leaves, distant animal calls, the soft hum of alien insects. Lyra walked ahead, her senses sharp. Ethan followed, his steps quiet but steady. They moved through the trees, checking for signs of another enemy attack. The deeper they went, the darker it became. A thick mist covered the ground, swirling around their feet. Every shadow seemed to move. Suddenly, Ethan stopped. "Wait," he whispered. Lyra froze. "What is it?" Ethan pointed at a patch of ground where the mist was swirling in a strange pattern. He knelt down, brushing the leaves away. Beneath them was a broken sensor, wires torn. Someone had destroyed it recently. "They're watching us," Ethan said quietly. "The enemy is near." Lyra's heart beat faster. She signaled for silence, raising her bow. Together, they moved slowly forward. The mist grew thicker, making it hard to see. A low growl came from the bushes. Two green eyes glowed in the darkness. Then, without warning, a small enemy scout leaped at Lyra. She dodged, firing an arrow into the air. The creature shrieked and vanished back into the mist. "Stay close," Lyra whispered. Ethan nodded, gripping his bow tightly. They walked deeper into the forest, listening for any sound. Lyra felt uneasy. She wasn't used to fighting with someone else, and she still didn't trust Ethan fully. But something about his calm confidence made her want to believe in him. Suddenly they heard voices, enemy soldiers not far away. Lyra motioned for Ethan to hide. They crouched behind a fallen tree, watching through the gaps. 4 enemy soldiers marched through the trees, carrying strange devices. Lyra listened carefully. The enemy spoke in their own harsh language, but she understood a few words. "They're planning another attack," she whispered to Ethan. "Tonight. They know the patrol routes. They're going to ambush the next squad." Ethan looked serious. "We have to warn the outpost." Lyra nodded, but as she started to move, her foot snapped a branch. The enemy soldiers turned, eyes narrowing. One shouted and fired a stun bolt at the tree. Sparks flew as bark exploded. Lyra and Ethan ran, arrows flying past them. They zigzagged through the forest, dodging blasts of energy. The enemy chased them, shouting orders. Lyra's heart raced. She fired her bow over her shoulder, forcing the enemies to slow down. Ethan stopped, pulling her behind a wide tree. "We can't outrun them," he said quietly. "We have to make a stand." Lyra wanted to argue, but she saw the determination in Ethan's eyes. She nodded. Together, they prepared their weapons, taking deep breaths. The enemy soldiers approached, their armor glowing green in the darkness. Lyra counted 4. Ethan nodded to her. Lyra fired first, her arrow hitting one enemy's leg. The soldier fell, crying out. The other three spread out, firing their weapons. Sparks and smoke filled the air. Ethan waited until the last moment, then fired 2 arrows in quick succession. Both found their marks, striking the enemy soldiers in their weak spots. Lyra covered him, her arrows forcing the last enemy to duck for cover. The battle was fast and dangerous, but together Lyra and Ethan won. The last enemy fell, stunned by Ethan's arrow. Lyra stood, breathing hard. She looked at Ethan with new respect. "You fight like you've done this 100 times. Ethan smiled, a little sadly. Maybe more. Lyra wanted to ask about his past, but there was no time. "Come on, we have to get back and warn the others," she said. They ran through the forest, back toward the outpost. Lyra glanced at Ethan, feeling the start of real trust. She realized she was not alone anymore. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. But deep in her mind, questions remained. Who was Ethan really? And what secrets was he hiding in the shadows? The hidden truth, the warning reached the outpost just in time. The commander quickly gathered the soldiers, preparing defenses against the new enemy attack. Lyra stood close to Ethan, watching how calmly he moved through the busy camp. Everyone was starting to notice the strange human with the old bow. Some looked doubtful, but others whispered about his skills. That night, the camp was restless. Fires burned low, and shadows danced on the walls. Lyra found a quiet corner near the medical tent and sat down, thinking about Ethan. She wanted to know more about him. Why was he so different from other humans she had met? Suddenly, she heard footsteps behind her. It was Yari, her closest friend. "You're quiet," Yari said softly. "What's on your mind?" Lyra shook her head. "It's Ethan. He's not like the others. I saw how he fought and the way he handles that old bow. It's almost like magic," Yari smiled. "Maybe he's just lucky." Lyra wasn't convinced. She stood up and decided to find Ethan. She needed answers. The camp was quiet now, most soldiers resting after the long day. Lyra walked carefully through the tents, looking for Ethan. She found him near a small fire, cleaning his bow again. "Ethan," she said softly. He looked up, surprised but not alarmed. "Lyra, what are you doing up?" "I could ask you the same," she replied, sitting beside him. "Why do you carry that old bow? Why don't you use the new weapons?" Ethan looked at the fire thinking, "This bow belonged to my father. It's more than a weapon. It's a symbol. And it works better for me." Lyra nodded slowly, but she pressed on. "Your arrows, how do you make them split like that?" "It's not normal." Ethan's eyes darkened for a moment. "It's a secret skill I learned long ago. On my home planet, we trained with bows for many years. Some of us can do things others can't." Lyra was curious. "Where is your home? Why are you here?" Ethan hesitated. "I don't talk much about it. It's a dangerous past. But I'll tell you this. I'm here because I want to help. To fight for something bigger than myself." Lyra was quiet. She wanted to believe him, but something inside her warned. "Caution. You're different," she said finally. "I don't know if I can trust you yet." Ethan smiled faintly. "That's fair." Suddenly, the camp alarm sounded again. Bright lights flashed, and soldiers rushed to their positions. "The enemy is attacking." The commander's voice boomed. Lyra and Ethan stood up quickly. "Let's go," Ethan said as they ran toward the walls. Lyra glanced at Ethan. She felt a strange bond growing between them, but also a mystery she couldn't solve. The enemy forces were stronger this time. Explosions shook the ground, and arrows flew through the air. Lyra fired arrow after arrow, fighting side by side with Ethan. His arrows flew like lightning, always finding their targets. The soldiers began to follow their lead, inspired by the strange human. Suddenly, a massive explosion tore a hole in the wall. Enemy soldiers poured through the breach. Lyra and Ethan fought back to back, surrounded by enemies. One enemy commander, wearing dark armor, stepped forward. He pointed a weapon at Ethan and shouted, "You don't belong here, human." Ethan didn't flinch. He pulled an arrow, aimed carefully, and fired. The arrow struck the commander's weapon, breaking it. Instantly, the enemy stumbled, shocked. Lyra saw something in Ethan's eyes, determination and pain. She realized there was more to this human than she had guessed. The battle raged on, but slowly the outpost began to push the enemy back. The soldiers cheered as the enemy retreated into the forest. After the fight, the commander approached Ethan. "You have earned your place here," he said. "You fight like a warrior." Ethan nodded, tired but proud. Lyra looked at him and smiled for the first time. "Maybe you're not just a human after all." That night, as the camp settled, Lyra sat alone, thinking. Ethan had secrets, yes, but he had also saved them all. She decided she would learn more about him and maybe, just maybe, trust him. But deep inside, Lyra knew the real battle was not just with the enemy outside. It was the fight to trust, to unite, and to face the darkness coming for them all. Shadows of the past. The sun rose slowly over the jungle planet, casting long shadows across the outpost. The night's battle had left many wounds, broken walls, tired soldiers, and whispered questions. Lyra sat on a fallen log, watching Ethan as he cleaned his bow in silence. Something about him seemed distant today, as if a shadow hung over his thoughts. Lyra stood and walked over. "You fought well last night," she said softly. Ethan looked up, giving a small smile. "Thanks, but the fight isn't over." Lyra nodded. "No, it's not. The enemy will come again. We need to be ready." Ethan's gaze turned cold for a moment. "I have to tell you something about my past that might explain why I'm here." Lyra was surprised. "You want to tell me?" He took a deep breath. "My homeworld was destroyed in a war much worse than this one. I lost my family and everything I knew. I was trained as a bowman in secret to protect what little was left." Lyra listened closely as Ethan spoke. "I survived by hiding and fighting alone. When I heard about this war, I came here to help, to stop others from suffering like I did." Her heart softened. "I didn't know humans could suffer so much." Ethan nodded. "We all have pain. It's how we use it that matters." Suddenly, a sharp alarm broke the quiet. The outpost's sensors detected something approaching fast. The commander's voice echoed again. "Prepare for an attack from the east." Lyra and Ethan ran to the wall, ready to defend. This time the enemy came not in large groups, but with small, fast squads moving through the trees. They aimed to cut off the outpost's supply lines. Lyra fired arrow after arrow. But this attack was different, more clever, more dangerous. Ethan moved beside her, watching carefully. "They know our moves. Someone is giving them information." Lyra frowned. "A spy?" Ethan's eyes darkened. "It could be worse." They climbed down from the wall to investigate. Moving through the thick jungle, Lyra noticed strange signs, broken branches, disturbed soil, evidence of a hidden trail. As they followed it, Ethan stopped suddenly. "Wait!" Ahead was a small cave half hidden by vines. A soft light glowed from inside. Lyra looked at Ethan. "Should we go in?" He nodded. "We need to find out." Together, they entered the cave. Inside, the walls were covered with strange markings, symbols from many worlds. A low hum filled the air. Suddenly, a figure stepped from the shadows. It was an alien, but not like the enemy soldiers. This one wore a cloak, and his eyes gleamed with intelligence. "You should not have come here," the figure said calmly. Lyra and Ethan raised their weapons. "Who are you?" Lyra demanded. The alien smiled coldly. "I am a messenger. The enemy you fight is only a part of a larger plan. You are pawns in a game far beyond your understanding." Ethan stepped forward. "What plan? Who is behind this?" The alien's smile faded. "There is a force gathering in the dark spaces between stars, a power that wants to control all life. Your war is just the beginning. Lyra's heart pounded. How do we stop it? The alien shook his head. You cannot stop what is coming, but you can choose who you trust. Choose your allies carefully, or all will fall. Before they could ask more, the cave began to shake. Rocks fell from the ceiling. The alien vanished into a hidden passage. Ethan grabbed Lyra's arm. We need to get back, now. They ran from the cave as the jungle seemed to come alive with danger. Behind them, shadows moved, enemies closing in fast. Lyra fired arrows to slow them down, while Ethan's precise shots took down the attackers one by one. Their teamwork was perfect, trust growing stronger with every step. They burst out of the jungle and into the safety of the outpost. Soldiers greeted them with urgent faces. The commander looked grave. We received reports of strange forces moving nearby. This war is bigger than we thought. Lyra met Ethan's eyes. She knew their fight was no longer just for survival. It was a battle against an unseen enemy, a shadow that threatened to consume them all. That night, Lyra lay under the stars, thinking. She had started this journey with doubt and laughter. Now with Ethan by her side, she felt a new strength. But deep inside, a question lingered. Could they truly trust the stranger who had warned them? Or was he part of the darkness waiting to strike? The war had changed, and so had Lyra. Reluctant partnership was now a bond forged in fire, and the real test was yet to come. Trust tested, the days after the warning from the mysterious alien were tense. The soldiers worked harder than ever, repairing walls, sharpening weapons, and preparing for attacks that could come at any moment. Lyra felt the weight of responsibility. Heavy on her shoulders, she was no longer just an archer. She was a leader. And beside her stood Ethan, quiet but strong. Despite the growing respect between them, a shadow still lingered. Some soldiers whispered about Ethan's past. Others looked at him with suspicion. Lyra noticed but said nothing. She wanted to believe in him, but her instincts told her to be careful. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the jungle, Lyra and Ethan sat by the fire. The camp was quieter now. The fighting paused for a moment. Lyra looked at Ethan and spoke carefully. Tell me more about your people, about where you come from. Ethan looked into the flames. My home was lost in a great war. I was one of the few survivors. We trained to fight with bows, not guns. We believed in precision, patience, and honor. Lyra nodded. That explains your skill. But why keep it a secret? Because some secrets protect us, Ethan said softly. And some truths can hurt. Before Lyra could ask more, a scout rushed into the camp, breathless and wide-eyed. Enemy forces approaching from the north. The commander's voice rang out, prepare to defend. All hands on deck. Lyra grabbed her bow and ran toward the wall. Ethan followed close behind. This time, the attack was different, swift, sudden, and fierce. Enemy soldiers swarmed the outpost, using strange weapons that emitted bright, crackling energy. Lyra fired arrow after arrow, her hands steady despite the chaos. Ethan moved beside her, his arrows flying with deadly accuracy. Together, they cut down enemy after enemy. Suddenly, a loud explosion shook the ground. Part of the wall collapsed, and enemy soldiers poured through the breach. Lyra and Ethan were pushed back, forced to retreat deeper into the camp. Amid the chaos, Lyra spotted something troubling. One of the enemy soldiers carried a device. A strange glowing orb that seemed to control the others. Ethan noticed it too. We need to stop that orb, he shouted. Lyra nodded. Cover me. She ran toward the soldier, dodging blasts and arrows. Ethan followed, firing at enemies. To clear her path as she neared the soldier, a blast knocked her to the ground. Pain shot through her leg, but she forced herself up. With a deep breath, she aimed and fired. Her arrow struck the glowing orb, and it shattered into pieces. Instantly, the enemy soldiers froze, confused and disorganized. Taking advantage of the moment, Ethan fired arrows that pinned the frozen enemies to the ground. The battle ended quickly after that. The soldiers cheered, but Lyra felt something else. A sharp pain in her leg and a growing doubt in her mind. That night, as the medics treated her wound, Lyra sat with Ethan. "You fought well today," she said, wincing. Ethan smiled softly. "So did you." She looked into his eyes, searching for answers. "There's something I need to ask. Why do some soldiers still doubt you?" Ethan's face grew serious. "Because I am different. Because I have a past they don't understand." Lyra nodded slowly. "I want to trust you fully. But it's hard when you keep parts of yourself hidden." Ethan reached out and took her hand gently. "I promise one day I will tell you everything." Before Lyra could respond, a shadow moved near the tent's entrance. A figure stepped inside, the mysterious cloaked alien from the cave. "Your trust will be tested soon," the alien said in a low voice. "Enemies come from within as well as outside. Watch your back." With that, the figure vanished as quickly as it had appeared. Lyra and Ethan exchanged a worried glance. The war was no longer just about fighting enemies on the battlefield. It was about surviving secrets, lies, and betrayal. Betrayal in the ranks. The outpost was restless. Whispers floated through the camp like a creeping fog. Soldiers eyed each other with suspicion, and trust grew thin. Lyra noticed the change every day, the quiet looks, the secret meetings, the rumors that no one wanted to say aloud. She stood by the wall with Ethan, watching the dense jungle beyond. The enemy's last attack had left scars, but something deeper was wrong. Someone inside the camp was working against them. Ethan's eyes narrowed. "They say spies walk among us," Lyra nodded. "I fear it's true, but who?" That night, Lyra could not sleep. She paced near the command tent, her mind racing. Ethan sat nearby, polishing his bow silently. Suddenly, a loud noise broke the quiet, a crash from the supply tent. Lyra and Ethan rushed toward the sound, weapons ready. Inside the tent, boxes were scattered, supplies missing. A shadow slipped through the opening and ran into the night. "Stop!" Lyra shouted, chasing after the figure. The shadow moved fast, weaving through trees and underbrush. Lyra and Ethan ran side by side, arrows ready. As they closed in, the figure stumbled and turned, a young soldier from their own camp. His eyes were wide with fear. "Why?" Lyra demanded, lowering her bow slightly. The soldier shook his head. "I had no choice. They threatened my family. They forced me." Ethan stepped forward, voice calm but firm. "Who are they?" "The enemy?" The soldier hesitated. "No, someone worse. Someone who wants to control the war from the shadows." Lyra's heart pounded. "Tell us everything." The soldier took a deep breath. "There's a group inside the outpost. They want to betray us. They work with the enemy's secret force. They believe the war will destroy us all, but they think they can survive by switching sides." Ethan's face hardened. "We have to stop them." Back at the outpost, Lyra and Ethan warned the commander. A secret investigation began. Soldiers were watched closely, their actions noted. Days passed with tense silence. The traitors were careful, hiding in plain sight. Then, during a late-night patrol, Lyra overheard a conversation. Two soldiers spoke in hushed tones near the armory. "They don't suspect a thing," one whispered. "Tomorrow we strike. The outpost falls and the enemy wins." Lyra's blood ran cold. She sent a quick message to Ethan. Together, they planned to catch the traitors red-handed. The next day, the outpost was quiet, almost too quiet. Suddenly, alarms blared. The traitors had attacked early, trying to open the gates for the enemy. Lyra and Ethan raced to the armory, fighting through waves of enemy soldiers pouring in. In the chaos, Lyra spotted the two traitors leading the enemy forces. Her arrow flew, striking one in the shoulder. He fell, shot. Ethan confronted the other, their eyes locked in a fierce battle of skill and will. The traitor was fast and strong, but Ethan's calm precision won. With one final shot, the enemy fell. The gates were secured, but the damage was done. The outpost had been betrayed from within. As the dust settled, the commander addressed the soldiers. "We have survived the darkness inside and out, but the war is far from over. Trust and unity will be our greatest weapons." Lyra looked at Ethan, grateful and wary. The battle had tested their trust, but together they had stood strong. That night, by the campfire, Ethan finally spoke about his past in full, the loss, the pain, and the hope that brought him here. Lyra listened, her heart opening to the human, who was no longer just her partner, but her friend. But far away, in the shadowed reaches of space, a dark force watched, waiting for the moment to strike again. The final stand, the outpost, was quiet before the storm. The soldiers prepared silently, their faces hard with determination. Lyra stood at the wall, her bow ready, eyes scanning the horizon. Beside her, Ethan checked his arrows, calm but alert. They had faced danger before, enemies outside and betrayal within, but nothing like what was coming now. The commander's voice crackled through the calm. "All units, brace yourselves. The enemy's main force is approaching. This is the final battle." A cold wind swept through the camp as dark shapes appeared on the horizon. Hundreds of enemy ships descended, their weapons glowing bright against the twilight sky. The ground shook with their march. Lyra felt her heart pounding. "This is it," she said softly. "We fight for everything." Ethan nodded. Together. The battle began with fire and noise. Arrows flew like rain. Energy blasts lit the air, and the ground trembled beneath the soldiers' feet. Lyra fired arrow after arrow, her aim true. Ethan's shots were just as deadly, each one striking with perfect precision. The enemy pushed forward, relentless and strong. But the outpost held, thanks to the courage and skill of its defenders. Suddenly, in the chaos, Lyra spotted a figure moving through the battle, the cloaked alien messenger who had warned them before. He was leading a group of strange warriors, alien beings with glowing eyes and advanced weapons. Lyra shouted, "Ethan, look!" Ethan's eyes narrowed. "They've joined the enemy." The messenger raised a weapon, aiming at the commander. Lyra's heart froze. Without hesitation, Ethan leapt forward, drawing his bow. His arrow flew faster than the eye could see and struck the messenger's weapon, shattering it. The alien staggered, shocked. But he smiled darkly. "This is not over." Lyra stepped beside Ethan, her bow ready. "We stand together," she said firmly. The messenger vanished into the shadows, but his warriors pressed on. The battle raged on, fierce and desperate. Lyra and Ethan fought back to back, their trust stronger than ever. Each arrow they fired was a promise to protect their home, their people, and each other. As the enemy's strength began to wane, the commander ordered a final push. Soldiers surged forward, breaking through the enemy lines. At last, the battlefield fell silent. The outpost stood victorious, but at a cost. Many were wounded, and the scars of war would last a lifetime. Lyra looked at Ethan, gratitude shining in her eyes. "You were incredible." Ethan smiled tiredly. "So were you." The commander approached, placing a hand on Ethan's shoulder. "You are one of us now, a true warrior." Lyra felt warmth spread through her chest. The partnership that began with doubt had become a bond of friendship and respect. As the sun rose over the jungle, painting the sky with gold, Lyra and Ethan stood together, ready for whatever the future held, because they had learned the greatest lesson of all, that unity and trust could overcome any darkness. The end.